evening. You are with the Urban Debate tonight. Thank you for being with us. I'm Sahar Zaman. And tonight we're going to be focusing for this one full hour on our vaccination drive. Our vaccination drive, which is pertaining to vaccine shortages that continues to persist. And very worrisome signals that have now come in from the Serum Institute of India Chief Adar Poonawala in the form of statements that he's made to international press, followed by a clarification here as well, saying that he's been misinterpreted. But there have been indications in which questions are being raised. Should the government take a relook at its vaccine policy? Were instructions delayed to the SII? Were there miscalculations on that? Because the SII chief says here that availability of more stocks is not going to be before 2 to 3 months. So should we carry on with the drive, expecting that crunch and shortage to impact the drive when it has just turned universal, but it will still continue facing that crunch? We're going to be discussing a host of issues which are a fallout to these statements and also the ongoing shortage. But it's also important to note here that there is a very strong word that is coming from the Supreme Court as well. Remember, the Supreme Court has been hearing and arguing with respect to vaccine pricing disparity. And today, the Supreme Court goes ahead and indicates here that the government of India will need to take a relook on our vaccine policy because the current policy is detrimental to the right to public health. As an integral part of Article 21 of the Constitution, it has asked the centre to take a relook at this. There are several issues pertaining to just vaccine, the shortage, the drive, and how to plug the system. We're going to be discussing all of this tonight. Let's go across here to our expert panel with us here tonight. Let's introduce them here first with us. We have Mr. Rajiv Pandey, who's the spokesperson of the BJP. We have Mr. Anshul Avijit, he's the national spokesperson with the Congress Party. Dr. Virendra Singh Chauhan, he's emeritus professor of the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. Dr. Rajiv Das Gupta is the chairperson of the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health, also member with the JNU and member with the National AFI Committee. We also have Amulya Nidhi, who is the national co-convenor of the Swasthya Abhiyan India. Thank you all of you. Good evening and thank you for being with us. Let's make a start straight away with Amulya Nidhi here. This is with respect to the oxygen shortages. In fact, let's play out those images that we're getting across from all centers, all states. Remember, when the vaccine drive became universal and was decentralized, means that it was no longer in control of the central government, it was in control of state governments for procurement and distribution and available to all adults now. But in the face of this, the irony being that we opened up our vaccination drive in the midst of an already existing shortage. Added to that is this ugly controversy. How worried should we be today? How worried should India be with this shortage, with the ugly controversy? And let's put that in parallel with the virus that continues to rage on. Amulya Nidhi.
Thanks. The first thing which is very important today, last year we know that coronavirus is there. Last year government has announced that 15th August we are going to make the vaccine and available to the country, entire country. Now after that we all know what happens. So once the vaccines was ready in India, the Covaxin and the Covishield. So first 3 months, see the examples of the first 3 months. There are first phase, above 60 years and old, 45 years of old people have taken first dose. What is the status of second dose? After 65 and 75 days, most of the states, the vaccine is not available. People are going in the queue and coming back. People are going to the one center to second center. At this time of this coronavirus, at the time of a Supreme Court and various people are getting locked down and everything in the pandemic phase, people are going to one center to second center. That's of course create a spread to the people are vulnerable. That's the one part. The second part, now state, despite if the state know and the center know there is a shortage, there is a non-availability of the vaccine things, they change the whole policy. Till now, there are three things. One thing is about the cost of the vaccine. It's still confusing. what cost state will get, what cost central will
Right.
get, what cost the
But
private will get.
Amulya,
So there
let's
should be.
also take into account you call it you call it an outburst or a sharing of grievance, or label it how one wants to label it. But what the SII chief has indicated in a string of interviews and followed by a clarification in the midst of this crisis, what is your concern pertaining to that? Now, this is someone who's responsible for a huge chunk of vaccine production in India. And he says that this is a shortage which will persist. This should have been better planned. I wasn't told, and I cannot ramp up production overnight.
Yeah, so the whole issue is that we have two vaccine. One is Covishield and one is the Covaxin. So this is related to Covishield. What happens to Covaxin? What is the plan of the Covaxin? Where is this? If you see the whole
Okay.
issue related to plan, we have time, we have sufficient time. We are not able to plan the both manufacturer things. We are sending it to various places. The issue here is the first phase is the whole lack of the planning by the government. What we are suggesting, if you don't have the sufficient stock, the government know that there is no stock. It is government already know what are the status of the stock. Why they are launching 45 years and above the new phase of 18 and 20, 45? If there is no shortage, first complete above 45, those who are more vulnerable, finish the second dose, try to focus, strategize this, and then you come out with the second thing, and then create the whole confusion of the costing things. So this is a total gap in the planning by the state and the center. A state is telling its center will purchase. How a center will purchase? So there should be a uniform purchasing policy, uniform procurement policy. The central government should purchase all the vaccine and supply to the
All
state,
right.
like other vaccines.
That's right. That's what the Supreme Court has tried to indicate here as well, to have the central government still in charge as far as procurement, and then to have the state government step in here on this. Dr. Virendra Singh, in your reading of this situation here, there were multiple signs being sent out by the SII saying that we're unable to ramp up, we need more time, more facility, our raw material has been blocked. And now a lot of that ugly back and forth is out in the open, is out in the public domain. To your understanding, how can this be corrected, and in what direction this needs to go now? Dr. Virendra Singh Chauhan, is my voice going through to you, please?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, that question for you.
Yes, can you hear me? My voice is clear? Hello?
Absolutely.
Okay, very quickly. You know, this is a fairly long, drawn, complicated issue. The supply chain world over is constricted. India, as everybody has said, could have been, as things are, we are where we are. Our monthly production availability would be ranging of 70 to 75 million doses. Assuming that the distribution is absolutely perfect and not a single dose of vaccine is wasted, whether center takes 50%, whether states take, whether private players, and assuming that everything works seamlessly with the confusion of who pays, who doesn't pay. The controversy is well known to everyone. Should it be like this? Should it not be like that? Let it be as it may. Even then, for a month or month and a half or maybe 2 months, we will still have the availability not more than 70 million per month. Now, that gives you about 2.5 million, 1 million goes towards it. So, you know, this vaccine supply chain, of course, will be constricted. Then you have Sputnik will come. Now, Sputnik, we have no idea when the 10 million doses which are going to be imported will come. So all this information is not very clearly available. Even if that is available, we are still looking at 75, 80 million per month. And I'm assuming that everything is put into people's arms. Remember, we've given about 15 crore vaccines to single dose. and only 2.5 crore have received the second dose. So we have a gap of about 13 crores there also, 12 crores. So whichever way you look at it, and we can raise fingers, criticize, but the fact is the supply chain will remain constricted. If you say, why don't you ramp up? It's absolutely right. It takes 2 to 3 months to start producing something as serious as a vaccine. I mean, vaccine, it's one thing you have to produce bulk, then you have to put it into small vials, then you have to make sure that every single dose that goes out is gone through the safety protocols, so on and so forth. So it's not easy to ramp up. And I think you've heard enough, and everybody ramping up itself will not take less than 2.5 months. So I think we will be only comfortable vis-a-vis supply chain, not before mid-June, early July, and that is the best case scenario. I would just add word picture right now. So there are countries which have, for example, AstraZeneca vaccine, which is being given in India. USA bought, I don't want to use the word hoarding, but they took 60 million doses, and that vaccine is still not approved by FDA in the use of their country. So clearly, these rich countries have 65% of all vaccine for about 20% of the population. They're not sharing it. So this notion that we can get Pfizer, Moderna, let private people buy from wherever they buy is slightly misplaced. It's not that the world is flushed with vaccines. The world is not flushed with vaccines. So Sputnik, if what I know about vaccines, the little bit that I know, even if you start today and give compulsory licensing, actually India and South Africa made a proposal to WTO long back, many months back. And guess who shot it down? It was USA, it was European Union. All the rich countries just shot it down. And now I think the word is coming around. This problem is much more serious than we thought. And maybe as you and I speak, there are some, I think, things that are happening that the licensing should be given. But suppose we get licensing. Let's say there are 50 vaccine makers and you give compulsory licensing. I can promise you, no matter whether your technology transfer, it will take you 2 to 2.5 months. So I'm afraid what we should do, not worry, not raise
All right,
fingers.
and 15 is a large number. Right now, we just have 3 in our kitty. That's right.
It is what it is.
And you're looking at this as a best case scenario. So we're still not sitting on a best case scenario. Absolutely. Please hold that thought. Anshul Avijit of the Congress, would you like to step in here on this? Do you think that our crisis becomes more worrisome because we decided to be so heavily dependent on the Serum Institute? We just had a second brand in our kitty being the Bharat Biotech, which does not have the capacity of producing as much as the SII. We should have taken many more pharma brands right at the start of this.
Sahar, on one hand, we are dealing with the shortages of vaccine. On the other hand, we are constantly getting messages and text messages on social media about people we know, their friends, their families who've been infected, news of death and agony and terror all around. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible situation. And, the central government has to be directly blamed for their criminal behavior in this. Their negligent and mercurial behavior in all aspects. Yes, you talked about diversification of our vaccine base. That is one of our issues. But in all aspects, from approval to procurement of the vaccines, from distribution, from registration, and this differential pricing that the Supreme Court has time and again so heavily come down upon. Let's take all this systematically, because this is where the base of our problem is. As far as distribution is concerned, we know that it all stems from the shortage of vaccine, and that arose from the fact that we never ordered on time. It was always as late as in January, and in that way, it was so abysmally low, the number of orders that were placed in January with the Serum Institute of India, that we could have never made up for it. As far as approvals were concerned, it was deeply capricious also. We gave approval to Covaxin for going certain protocols, but at the same time, we weren't ready to do that with Sputnik 5. I don't want to go down history, but it all adds up. Then when Pfizer came in early February saying that no, wave off bridging trials, we want to be in India, the government of India says no. But in April 14th, it gives an order saying Suddenly, no, bridging trials are not important. We have to get them in. As far as, well, on all aspects of the government of India has failed, and particularly in the diversification of the vaccine base in India, where, yes, all your eggs are in one basket. This is the vaccine capital of the world. I mean, this is the epicenter of the world. You've got 20 vaccine manufacturers. They haven't been given any kind of technology transfer to ramp up vaccine. And not only that, I mean, there's been no capital investment, and you don't have compulsory licensing as yet, Seher, in vaccines, where the parent, where the patent maker does not have to be consulted for producing vaccines. Supreme Court has clearly said that what are all these rules for? What are the patent rules for? And now the government should do anything about it. The problem with this government is it doesn't learn from its mistakes. I have no hope that if there is, God forbid, a third wave where the virus is even more malevolent, we'll be prepared for it.
All right. I'm going to take some of those points that you raised to the BJP in just a bit here, but I need to get in another view. Dr. Rajiv Das Gupta, and in what you've heard from each of our panelists here, is it just about a miscalculation or a misunderstanding or a miscommunication? Because now we have gotten a clarification from the SII. The SII chief saying that he's been misinterpreted. The government has always been by his side, taking into account his demands and requirements and payments, all of that. And there is an equal clarification that is coming from the Health Ministry and the Government of India addressing this concern here as well, that we have always been available for the SII in whatever they needed.
Well, these are conversations between Mr. Poonawalla or SII and the Ministry of Health. If we step back a bit, essentially the way vaccines or COVID vaccines were developed all across the world was something called an adaptive and seamless design. And the whole purpose of that adaptive and seamless design, which is a modification of the conventional design, is actually to be able to overlap various phases and come to a finished product which would be ready for consideration of authorization much faster than the conventional model. And what therefore several countries, including the USA, did was, and that was a risk in a sense, as we see with the AstraZeneca example that Professor Chauhan very rightly gave, is actually to be able to place advance purchase orders of very significant quantities. Now, that's what India in its wisdom actually didn't do. And India actually waited for a more advanced stage of the results and then went ahead with it. So that's part of the explanation. The other thing is, as Professor Chauhan again very rightly said, the vaccine market for all vaccines is quite different from many other medicines or products or medical products. And there is indeed a shortage in many countries. Even a country with a relatively small population such as South Korea is also exactly in the same stage. They are also waiting till July, which is exactly what, again, in the optimistic sense, India's situation will be, when by July things will be comfortable, and that's true for many countries also. So it is not very black and white as one may claim, or as some may claim, but it's a lot of grays.
Okay. A lot of gray areas there. Mr. Rajiv Pandey, you've taken into account all the voices here, but all the voices alike indicating that India should have been smarter, and we have enough experience in this sector, in this area, to have taken those smart decisions.
No, but just now Das Gupta ji has said that India has taken a considered view, and it was a good decision. I'll tell you one thing. There are three aspects in the whole discussion which I feel that I want to put in. One, whatever Chauhan Sahab has stated, everything I completely adopt his submission. That how this vaccine whole issue go, and across the world, how it is happening. As far as Serum Institute controversy is concerned, you know, the last 24 to 48 hours, everybody was, including media, was trying to paint the government of India in a different manner. And now the statement has come that for 11 crore vaccine, full amount government of India had already paid to Serum Institute. Now that vaccine is coming. As far as co-vaccine is concerned, that whatever production is happening, that is coming. Around 16 crores people are already vaccinated. So as far as the Serum Institute controversy is concerned, it should be asked to the people that who were trying to create problem for production of this vaccine, and how and what has happened. As far as one thing is concerned, that there was an allegation against government of India, now that is clarified. Third point, why this has happened in India. First, this trial was going on.
Mr. Pandey, should people step up and explain this, or should there be an explanation? Should there be an investigation vis-a-vis allegations of SII facing immense pressure to the extent that he went outside to London to break his silence? Yes.
I completely agree with you. There should be an investigation, that how and why he made these kind of statements, and under who were putting pressure, under what duress he has left the country, and that until in the criminal law can be set in motion once somebody files a complaint. So that I am leaving it to the people who were trying to create pressure on him, trying to put pressure on him. Third point, which is very important, in this last 1 year, we tried, the government, the scientists and other people tried to, develop the vaccine. What was happening at that time? Can you recollect? Several politicians and several people who are opposing government on political lines were discrediting vaccine itself. Just imagine any person, any businessman will put money when
but Mr. Pandey, they were, let's be fair on that criticism. They were not discrediting the vaccine. They were concerned on giving sanction to a vaccine which was still in phase 3 trial. That was the criticism.
Yes, you're right. So that's why government was waiting that this trial should take place, and then only this should be given. And in the case of Covishield, it has happened. Now they are blaming that you have given him permission at the end. So you cannot have it, eat it too. What I'm trying to say, 2 expert panelists have said, and I completely agree with them. There may be some misunderstanding. There may be some
No, but we don't have enough to have it and eat it too. There's I mean, if you want to use that phrasing, I mean, we have nothing left to eat here. Dr. Virendra Singh Chauhan, you want to step in here on this here, because the concerns also have been that there were enough farmers lining, farmer brands, vaccine brands lining up to get in that access and permission to go ahead in supplying the COVID-19 vaccine here in India, but the government refused in the beginning. We've seen how long drawn the process has been for Sputnik V. Even now, we got in the Sputnik V stocks on Saturday afternoon, but we are still waiting for that one final step of a go-ahead. Inoculation of Sputnik V has still not started. The government has tried to break down and squeeze down the process for other brands here as well, but it's not showing any progress on ground. Should we have waited that long, or should we have kept waiting for other made in India brands here to complete their trials?
So let me just take a step back and please explain. I'm a scientist by training, so I have no political side to take. I'll just simply explain to what I know and what my information is. Serum Institute vaccine is not a so-called national or Indian vaccine. Unfortunately, vaccines against COVID have brought in nationalism, Chinese vaccine, Russian vaccine, which does no good to science, let me assure you, and I don't want to get into that argument. Serum Institute vaccine is discovered or developed by Oxford University, which signed a contract with AstraZeneca. Then AstraZeneca will make. Now, Serum Institute is a very well-known institute even for experimental vaccines. So a lot of vaccines against malaria or whatever, meningitis, whenever anybody in the world thinks of producing a vaccine, they use in India are fantastic.
Absolutely.
Not only serum, biological evidence, you have Reddy's Lab, you have Bharat Biotech, they produce world-class vaccines, better than I would say better than anybody. As everybody knows, we vaccinate the whole world. But going back to AstraZeneca, and Oxford University signed a contract, MOU with AstraZeneca, that you will not sell this vaccine more than a certain price, which is close to $3. And AstraZeneca agreed. It was clear to us, those who were in the field, by October, November last year, that AstraZeneca vaccine is a vaccine which will move to low-income and countries that cannot access vaccines so easily. So that's the history. And that's exactly what happened. If you look at 1%, only 1% of Africa is vaccinated till today. Most of it is AstraZeneca vaccine, that is, and much of it gone to Serum Institute. COVAX, which is an organization within WHO's initiative, it's CEPI, COVAX, Gates Foundation, actually gave money to Serum Institute. Serum Institute is, to be honest with you, is a contract manufacturer. It's not a discoverer of vaccine. And many times we keep saying, our vaccines and so on. I think we should get off that. We should get off that completely. Now, the government of India, or we, the nation, actually was waiting for vaccines to be successful. That the rest of the world was investing in vaccine thinking that they will be successful. That's why UK, USA, Israel, they paid millions of dollars upfront before the vaccines have gone into phase 3 trial. I think in India, maybe that discussion is not very clear. So if you are a contract manufacturer and I paid you money upfront months back, it's your duty to give me the vaccine. So sometimes there's a confusion about AstraZeneca having given vaccine through COVAX and Indian government having given vaccine about 16 million or 60 million. When India was giving the vaccine, India was doing extremely well and the whole world was praising India. Little we knew that our own supply chain.
That's right. Yes, we get your point, Dr. Chauhan. Amulya Nidhi, would you like to step in at this point and take up from what Dr. Chauhan has mentioned? This is also along the lines what the SII chief also said, that we believed that we were doing fairly well. No one was prepared for this second wave, this tsunami, so to say, not even a wave, and we're still hitting record-breaking numbers. We still haven't reached our peak. We don't know when we'll start climbing down here. Is it fair to be blaming everyone involved and instead be more realistic about this exceptional situation that we are facing?
See, it's pain or it's anger. At this point of time, if in the present condition where we are managing two things, one thing about our oxygen and remdesivir and injection and beds and all that, and the second aspect is vaccination. So the issue here is not blaming and all. The issue here, what we are facing at the ground, what we are listening every day, is bring the false hopes. The issue here is not everybody know what's the pandemic next phase. Who was not knowing? The Ministry of Health. The health minister was launching the Ayurveda medicines when he was supposed to sit and plan for the vaccination program. So issue here is not a blame. Issue is very painful. Issue here is now people are sitting with the first dose and waiting for the second dose. Issue here is not the blaming. Issue here is why you are bringing in false hopes. Issue is here. Everybody know there is a second phase, and now everybody know that maybe the third phase will come. There is a discussion, there is a media reports and everything. The issue here is if you know you already have an old vaccination program, you have already had a policy, why you are changing the entire policies? Why not you are so much of issues and so much of whatever anger and concern raised, why not you are organizing a meeting of all the public stakeholders? Why not one day stakeholders meeting and
all right, Anshul Avijit, is the government still in denial and doesn't want to participate as much here? Because there is also a point here that the vaccination drive has been decentralized. It's all to each of the state governments to deal with this headache, so to say.
The government has completely forfeited its responsibility, Sahar. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When it realized it couldn't deal with the problem, it said that no, now the states have to deal with it. All this while, it had implemented the Disaster Management Act, in which all the powers with the central government. They placed the orders. They were directly dealing with the vaccine makers, with the Serum Institute of India. And by the way, this point about Mr. Adar Poonawala and his letter, I mean, of course, in his letter, he said that 1,700 odd crores were given to him, but it didn't say when it was given to him. He didn't say that was it after he came on television a couple of weeks back and almost gave an SOS signal saying that, listen, I need help. I mean, I don't have money. I don't have capital investment. Please help me.
That's right.
And secondly, he asked for 3,000 crores. He's only been given 1,700 crores. So I don't know what that means. Even the Supreme Court, in a judgment which came out late last night, has said that, listen, how much money has actually been given to these guys? Is it enough? It's a lifeline. I mean, you call it the silver bullet, you call it whatever. This is the only potent weapon we have at this moment, because tomorrow the doctors will say, no, no, no. 2 masks are not enough. You have to wear 5 masks. You have to wear 7 masks. You need social distancing of 10 yards. What are you going to do? Because this virus, now we have a double mutant virus. We have the UK variant. They've all got mixed up together. We don't know how many more variants are going to come, because genomic sequencing is pretty low at this moment. It's less than 1%. So ultimately, I don't know what kind of variants will come, because we are completely, there's a complete shortage of vaccine at this point of time. So unless the government is prepared, there is no hope that the government is prepared. Right now, you are absolutely right. It is in denial. It keeps saying that the oxygen is enough, and anyone who critiques the government will be arrested. It keeps saying that the vaccines are enough. There is nothing to worry about. There's enough vaccine floating around. I mean, who are you fooling? This got to stop. And the courts have taken cognizance of it. And they said enough is enough.
All right.
I mean, we're all saying enough is enough, but the government is not listening in its arrogance.
Rajiv Pandey. Rajiv Pandey of the BJP, I'm sure there's a lot that you'd like to respond to that here. But there also has been lack of clarity of how many stocks available, how many have been sent across 2 states. When there were allegations that came in from the Maharashtra government on shortages, only then did we get a rough breakdown from the health ministry here. But now the Supreme Court makes it very clear. The Supreme Court says that the central government will have to revisit its vaccine policy. It has instructed both the centre and the state governments here to provide a very clear breakup of the current stocks, availability, and for the coming 6 months here as well. Is the central government willing to hear the Supreme Court today?
100% it will have to supply all the information, whatever Honorable Supreme Court of India has asked from the central government or a state government. That is not the question, that whether central government of India will do or not. Vijay ji is saying that about the
But to revisit
crisis.
The policy?
No, can I just, I'll talk about the revisit also. Vijay ji is saying, in this country, in Delhi also, every after 2 hours or 3 hours, that SOS comes from hospitals, and then oxygen is reaching. At some places, it has not reached and people have died. So, but later on, it has reached. So, central government on affidavit has said before the Supreme Court of India that oxygen is available. The problem is of the supply. When this issue erupted, then Delhi government is giving advertisement for the tankers. Can you imagine?
No, okay.
On 7th,
No,
just
Mr. Rajiv Pandey, I also want to... Mr. Rajiv Pandey, oxygen is something we're going to be discussing in detail at 9 p.m. I understand what you're trying to get at here, but the larger sense, even for oxygen shortages, while the government continues to insist, the hospitals are sending SOS. The hospitals are still sending SOS. And when you say that, okay, some people die and then oxygen reaches later, please, let's not sound blasé about this. People are saying deaths by oxygen should be termed as murder. They're being treated for COVID-19. They have access to hospitals, and yet they're dying because of oxygen shortage. But this is something we are going to be discussing in detail at 9 p.m. I will have to leave that for 9 p.m. But Mr. Pandey here, my question here to you on revisiting the vaccine policy. Now that the Supreme Court makes it very clear here as well, the Supreme Court has found faults in the vaccine policy, saying that it does not cut across the board here as far as right to life is concerned. Please revisit it.
I'll tell one thing, that if anything is falling from the Honorable Supreme Court of India, government will certainly look into that issue. This is a very dynamic situation right now in the country about the virus, the kind of problems we are facing. And if any advisory kind of things. Supreme Court of India can give two things. One, instruction that you please revisit, or they can say that you please look into the situation, and if you find you can revisit. In my opinion, what is in the best interest of the people and the best interest of the country, revisiting any policy is not bad. The way things are happening and the way so central government is going to look into the issue, and if they find that there are some issues, they may revisit as directed by Honorable Supreme Court of India.
Dr. Rajiv Das Gupta, as an expert on the panel who's member of the National AFI committee here as well here, to what extent the situation can be salvaged, or should we be using that term, that this is now a situation that needs to be salvaged and in a hurry?
Well, there are two parts to it. And vaccine, what the Honorable Supreme Court asked is to revisit the policy, which is a whole lot of things. But to come to the central point of this particular conversation, it's not really so poignant as what Mr. Poonawalla said, but as to why he said, and at this point. There are two inflection points in the recent history. One inflection point is when the age band was expanded from 50 with comorbidities to all above 45, all of those 45 and above. Now, that particular decision has an implication of an additional 200 to 250 million doses. And then within another month of that, the second inflection point, which is opening up to 18 years and above, which is a necessity, but which necessarily meant that the demand-supply mismatch or the gap accentuated further. And therefore, it is not that, it's not necessarily, or let me put it this way, it is not simplistically that the government didn't do it or didn't do that, but these two inflection points are extremely important in understanding the complexity of it, if you get the drift of what I'm saying. And finally, can it be salvaged? It's not a question of salvaging it at this point. One will have to, well, if I may use the term, sit it out till the vaccine supply increases, which is a mix of import, which is a mix of additional vaccines, and a third component is actually ramping up the production of the two existing vaccines, and that bit of a game changer, which is not a big game changer, but part of that game changer is the Bharat Biotech's additional production, which will come up at Bangalore. Now, whether in addition, and that really is the emergency decision, which is part of the salvaging decision, whether government should invoke compulsory licensing, whether other vaccine manufacturers should be put into it, so on and so forth. That really is the salvaging component. The rest of it exists in the pipeline, but it's up to July that this relative deficit will exist.
All right, this is your calculation that it could extend up to July here. We're already in May. Yes, so that is 2-3 months' time again. Dr. Chauhan, what is it that the government should do today, taking into account all of these aspects that have played up pertaining to our vaccination drive?
Well, I totally agree with Rajiv, the previous speaker. Absolutely spot on. The government, as he said, you may have to just sit it out, as we are sitting it out for the second wave. So all necessary. So if it can be imported. I personally don't think that is so straightforward, because the whole world, EU has just placed an order for 1.2 billion euros to get Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. Very quickly, let me explain. The two vaccine, Moderna and Pfizer, actually, you're right. You said it earlier on, did come to India and saying that if you give us indemnity from usage of it, and that time there was no huge pressure. So the regulatory authority was saying, no, we can't give. As of today, three things should happen. One is the dissemination of good quality information should be transparent. any vaccine policy, given the shortages that we are, and I don't think there's any easy way to fix the shortages. Personally, and I follow the international vaccine scenario, it's not very easy, is that your your vaccine policy must be as simple as possible, because giving vaccine is very complex. So if you're giving vaccine is complex and our policies are pricing are different, whatever, it should be as simple and make it as simple as possible. Word over, governments have centrally bought vaccines and that's given. In more often than not, I think all cases that I know, that vaccines are given free of cost. Government takes it. Not that companies are, of course, charging huge sums of money, but governments take that. So anyway, what should government do? I think government knows there are enough experts in the government to advise government. I think make it as simple as possible. Again, I say what I said earlier. We must make sure, given the paucity of vaccine, not a single dose of vaccine should be wasted. That should be incumbent on you, me, vaccine giver, vaccine taker. I don't think we are going to have more than 75 million doses per month, at least for whole of May. And I agree with the previous speaker. I think July, mid-June, suppose Hepkin gets suppose I give license to everybody today, and you take my technology. It will take you 3-4 months to gear up. I mean, vaccine is not just a small piece of virus. It is mixture of 30, 40 other chemicals.
Absolutely.
So it's a very complex. So if vaccine is, by the way, the good thing about vaccine is once you got it right, you can produce very large amounts. No question about it. And in fact, SI together and Bharat Biotech, if they increases, and biological levels kicking in with Johnson & Johnson vaccine, Reddy is kicking in with Sputnik. India, I had written this sometime in August last year.
Yes.
It is India which will be immunizing the rest of the world with COVID-19 vaccine. I still hold my opinion. It's just that we are taken by a little bit surprise. We are a little bit behind. Come July, August. But let me just answer that question squarely. For the coming month and next month, I don't think your supply chain is going to ramp up. I don't think there are stocks lying which could be
absolutely.
I think India is giving whatever it should give. Remember, if you start vaccinating today to maximum your policy, vaccine would take 6 weeks to kick in your immune responses. So even if you give 10 more crores vaccine.
Absolutely. So Dr. Chauhan, it's also not about taken by surprise of the second wave being a setback. We're taken by shock. We're still reeling under huge shock, unable to come to terms of what we continue to see in across cities on a daily basis here. Amulya Nidhi, there was a union budgetary allocation here of 35,000 crore rupees only for vaccine allocation. In your understanding, have we really exhausted all of that? Why aren't we buying more vaccines? What's happening with that fund?
See, apart from the budget, of course, budget is very less. The first part. The second part, where is the PM Care Funds money? The second aspect is that. And the third part is what the whole issue. So if central government, it's a national vaccination program. It is the center duty to procure and purchase all the vaccine and supply to a state like other vaccine, like BCG, DPT and all that. Why in this case, government is not purchasing the centralized purchasing policy? Why government don't?
All right, we seem to have lost that line here. But Rajiv Pandey, would you like to answer that here? Where's all the money gone? Whatever little that was allocated, and people are asking for more transparency from the PM Cares Fund as well. Why aren't we buying more vaccines today? Why are we just stuck on 2 names?
These kind of questions everybody raising, which is of no consequences. PM Cares Fund, all details are available.
No, but how is of no consequences? This is taxpayers' money. This is citizens' donations that has gone into a fund. Taxpayers' money that has gone into union budgetary allocation here. How are they of no consequence? This is our money. I demand an answer, please. It is of much consequence.
No, you are. As far as the PM Cares Fund is concerned, whatever money is received as a donation, there is a list that where it has been spent. As far as the budgetary location of 35,000 crore rupees is concerned, it has not gone to anywhere. You mean to say that you know? So certainly it is being spent on the money. You have just seen that central government has bought 17 crores doses, 11 crores advance is given. So from where this amount is given? So you are saying you know, you want to know. So you will get all information that this where this 35,000 crore is spent.
No, we get that breakup only when it blows up in our face. We get that breakup only when Aadhar Punewala has an outburst. We get that breakup only when the government chooses to respond to an Aadhar Punewala outburst. Where are the budgetary allocations? What is the calculation? There's so much donation money that has gone in. Why aren't we buying more vaccines?
I'll say, if you
we will have to do this number crunching. For how long will we continue to remain ambiguous about this?
Madam, I would have come with that breakup that where the PM Cares Fund has gone.
But
it is available.
This is allocation and
very
use
easy,
of budget that should be on our fingertips.
Even on the budget also where the money is being spent.
No, it's not very easy.
Where the money is being spent. If you want, I can send you, or you can have this debate tomorrow. Today you have not called for that debate, so I have not that paper with me. That where this budget.
No, but don't send it to me as a private citizen.
No, I am saying
everyone should know why is it not out of the public domain.
Debate tomorrow. I have no problem.
Why should I ask you as a private citizen and you send it to me on email? This is not information that belongs to my inbox. This has to be in the public domain.
So that's what I'm saying. So keep it tomorrow, this debate. I will bring all the data that where this PM Cares Fund has been used and how this budget.
No, this is information that should have come in 2 weeks ago. Why should I wait till tomorrow?
You know, you did not.
Anshul Avijit, would you like to step in here on this? It's no, do I? No, but Mr. Rajiv Pandey, I don't need to ask for this breakdown and allocation.
As well. That's why there are no vaccine policies. Everything is being deferred till tomorrow because today we are doing
How can you be taken aback by a question in which I'm asking about figures? You say you've not done your homework. I mean, this is something that we should know anyway in our public domain. Anshul Avijit, would you like to step in here on this? That it is high time we get real figures and not be hitting in blank spots and thinking this is the allocation, this is how much has been spent, this is left in the kitty. We are still sitting dependent on 3 brands, Sputnik V being the third one. We don't know when the inoculation starts on ground and we are still not buying more vaccines.
That is exactly what the Supreme Court is saying. Can you imagine what a monumental crisis we are in, that the Supreme Court at this juncture has to ask clarification on a number of accounts, on procurement, on registration, on distribution of vaccines, a huge indictment on differential pricing when the vaccine should be free, the relationship between, well, I would like to know what is the relationship between ICMR and also Bharat Biotech. Why should the vaccine be costing 1,200 rupees when ICMR perhaps owns the patent for it, because they've asked Hefkin, and that word came in, Hefkin to produce that vaccine. So obviously the patent is with them. Why can't they just simply do it through technology transfer and produce less? Because it's our money. It's actually the taxpayers' money that's gone into it. And also this, the idea about the PM's Care Fund, I mean, it's absolutely opaque. Mr. Pandey had no answer because it's completely opaque, because last year the government ordered 162 oxygen plants and said the money was going to be paid from this particular fund. Nothing happened to it. Only, Sahar, can you imagine the statistics even now? Can you just imagine what is happening? There are only 11 plants that have been made. 5 are operational. Out of 162 that was supposed to be made from the PM's Care Fund. We have no idea where the money has gone. We have no idea what the budgetary allocation was. Anyway, that allocation is just a promise. It's a nominal amount. Acha kharcha karenge, kal aayega to karenge. It's just like everything else in the PM Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, which is the most empty and vacuous program ever floated to hoodwink the people of India. It was floated right at the time of this vaccination drive, or rather to fight the pandemic. It has meant the privatization of everything in this country. Okay. It has yielded no benefit. We don't know where the money has gone. Right. And that promise of 20 lakh rupees
Congress
is
party,
bogus. It's absolutely bogus. And let me tell you, if the Prime Minister can promise 20 lakh rupees, why can't it make vaccination free? It's not going to cost you that much. It's going to cost you less than 1%.
Rajiv Pandey, I'm sure you want to respond here to this. There's a string of allegations. I'll leave the final word for you very quickly. If you can wrap this up in 1 minute for us here. Please respond. Mr. Pandey. Mr. Pandey, do you think we started with the issue of crunch? It tapered into the Aadhar Punewala outburst and clarification here, but a very important aspect here to this has been the budgetary allocation and transparency. We don't need to be sitting in a blind spot here. Do you think the government of India can allay fears and allay anger by releasing more figures on expenditure and allocation? Can that be a solution?
What are you talking about the transparency? I am unable to understand. Transparency, there is a budgetary allocation of 35,000 crore. Government has allocated this fund, and this fund will be spent on the corona vaccine and on the vaccination drive. 16 crore people are already vaccinated. 11 crore you have just got, so it becomes 26 crore people. And then for Covaxin, 2 crores per month.
Yes, but let's give a percentage to that. 1.99% fully vaccinated of the population of India.
Do you think that this money, once again, do you think this 35,000 crore, which is allocated for the vaccination, is being used somewhere else? That you mean to say? That this you are seeking transparency? What kind of question is
not
this?
at all.
Transparency means what? 35,000
No, Mr. Pandey, no one's putting in any allegations, but as a citizen, we all have a right to know where money is being spent and how it's being spent. So why are you being so touchy about this? This is not an allegation. We're just wanting to know some answers. Do we put in an RTI about this then?
You can do that, but what I'm saying, then vaccination program is on. 30 million Sputnik vaccine is coming by end of this month. Already one tranche has come, and I am giving you the numbers that how many vaccination has been done.
No, it has come already on Saturday. We've entered a new month now. All right, Mr. Pandey. Okay, all right, Mr. Pandey, we get your point here. We appreciate all our experts, our panelists, and other voices who've been with us here on today. But let's leave you behind with one big thought here. Irrespective of a lot of opinions and views that have come in here with respect to the ongoing vaccination drive, the shortage, the brief controversy with the SII, let's leave this with what the Supreme Court has said. I don't think we can refute what the Supreme Court has said, but the Supreme Court also makes it very clear. So let's revisit our vaccination drive. There is a need for the central government to sit and revisit this drive and to also chalk out the plan for the coming 6 months. So let's stay with that. Let's hope to work on that here and vaccinate as many of our citizens as possible. Only 2% of our population fully vaccinated. What are we celebrating? Why are we patting our backs on that? We're in the midst of a raging second wave here. We need to ramp up this. Thanks for being with us.